Okay, so Fahd, it's very nice to talk to you again. This time we're going to be talking about the work that you're doing now with Amazon around the cloud. You're responsible for Amazon's cloud work in Canada, particularly, I think, in the public sector.
Correct.
This is going to be valuable for people at Waterloo and others who may see it. As an introduction to cloud, many people are looking at that. So I thought we would start with talking about what the cloud is. So for anyone watching, some of them will be familiar, but some won't, with the cloud concept. Could you just give an introduction to that for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working with Amazon Web Services now for about 5 years. And throughout my 5 years, I focused on the public sector, as you mentioned. And more specifically, I lead digital transformation programs for the public sector. And as we'll get into in a bit more detail later on, digital transformation, a big part of that is cloud, is the technology that is called the cloud. So for those of you that aren't as familiar with the concept, cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with a pay-as-you-go pricing model. So essentially, you can access technology services on an as-needed basis. So to give you an example of what I mean by this, in the past, if you had a great idea and you wanted to put it in place, like let's imagine that you're a researcher and you wanted to put this idea in place that you'd have to buy the servers, wait for them to be delivered at your house. You'd have to buy the technology, like for example, the software, etc., wait for that to be delivered, wait to understand how to use it, wait to get the approvals to buy it from your organization, your university, or whatever it may be. And there's a lot of delays, and it took a lot of time for you to get an idea, to start putting an idea into place. Well, what cloud allows you to do is essentially get those resources over the internet with the pay-as-you-go pricing model. So for example, if you want to provision a couple of servers or need some database services or AI ML services, you can buy them and use them as on an as needed basis, and you have access to them instantaneously.
Okay, so basically it is that organizations are paying you to look after their technology and to provide their services to them on an as-needed basis, and this removes the risk that they have and the responsibility that they have if they were to do it themselves.
Well, exactly, and I think it's more like if you think about the economies of scale aspect, the amount of investment that we put into, for example, creating an AI or ML service or software would be a lot more than a smaller organization, because we're inventing on behalf of customers, and there's a lot of investment that we put into our platform.
Makes sense, and that might be why we've seen rapid growth in the use of cloud services by organizations in recent years. But I thought I'd just ask you to talk about that. Why have we seen that growth? And with that, what are all the benefits that it gives organizations to work with an organization like yours?
Yeah, so Peter, you must have noticed over the past few years, especially, there's been really a hockey stick type curve when it comes to the adoption of cloud technology. So what cloud really does is it enables innovation, right? It puts leading edge technology at the fingertips of builders, governments, organizations, entrepreneurs. So previously, when you had to have a lot of money, a lot of investment to get access to top leading edge software or services, that isn't the case with the cloud. The cloud literally puts innovation and leading edge services in the hands of anybody and everybody. And some of the benefits of the cloud essentially are from an agility perspective. So I had mentioned that previously in the past, if you wanted to compute lots and lots of data and test out an idea, you had to order a server and all this physical technology, and that could take weeks, if not months, to get delivered. Well, the cloud allows you to get access to that type of equipment instantaneously within seconds. It also helps reduce costs because you are maximizing the use of your so for example, sometimes if you buy a server, you're not utilizing it at full capacity, and then you're wasting a lot of money that way. So the cloud allows you to only pay for what you use. And then from an elasticity perspective, so one of the challenges that a lot of customers were having, before the concept of cloud was that, during Christmas time or during the holiday season or holidays, their business would spike. So what they had to do was they had to plan, they had to buy an appropriate amount of technology, services, software, etc., to be able to service that highest level of traffic. But in reality, that would only happen during holiday seasons. So when there wasn't a holiday season, a lot of there's a gap between how much they spend and what was being used. So cloud enables elasticity where it can scale up and down based on your business's demands. And then when it comes to innovation, a lot of the times individuals were racking and stacking servers and provisioning the technology, software, etc. And what the cloud does is it actually allows us to take care of all that nitty-gritty stuff and allows organizations to innovate and build and test out new ideas. And lastly, we are a global organization, so we have regions and data centers across the globe so that you can service in with low latency your customers across the globe, so that they have a consistent experience, whether they're in Canada or whether they're, for example, in Europe somewhere.
Okay, so when an organization's considering their use of the cloud, one of the things they'll consider is how that might impact processes inside their own organization. So for them to gain the benefits of using the cloud, do they need to alter the way that they do things, the processes in their organization?
That's a good question. So when I think about this, I would have to say that one of the biggest challenges when it comes to adopting cloud is just the way you think about it, right? So, it's from when you acquire a bunch of technology, right? Like physical, it's a capital expenditure. So for example, that includes physical assets that you're buying, building, equipment, machinery, etc. However, the cloud is an operational expenditure. So for example, it would be within the same category as, rent or utilities or property taxes. So I think it's that way of thinking about how you're being charged or how you're making payment for this service. So I think that is still, people are still trying to wrap their head around that, especially finance departments. But they are getting there because the cloud technologies are becoming more and more prevalent across all verticals.
In your introduction, you talked about digital transformation and that your role was partly in supporting that. So how does the cloud support digital transformation?
The cloud, I would say, is imperative to digital transformation. If you think about it, the cloud is required to build customer-centric services within an appropriate timeline. So for example, as an organization, if your customer comes to you and says, we're looking for X, Y, Z, and let's say you don't have it built, you're going to start building it. And by the time it's done and complete, chances are that's not their requirement anymore. Now they're going to say, well, we want ABC because our requirements have changed, or the environment has changed, or customer demands have changed. So what the cloud does is it's imperative for digital transformation because we have over 200 services that exist for customers, everything from database to AI, and we're continuously listening to our customers and developing based on that. And as I mentioned, we're a large organization with a lot of investment that goes into building these services. So for example, if you're looking for a service, text to speech as an example, instead of building one on your own, you could leverage what exists already with Amazon Web Services as an example, or translation services, etc. Many other database, and there's many more as well.
Okay, so clearly the cloud, particularly with Amazon, is something that can help organizations accelerate the work they may be doing to digitally transform.
Absolutely. And I just want to add to that, when you think of cloud services, I've mentioned that a few times, think about building blocks, right? So what Amazon Web Services does is we give builders building blocks. And then as a builder, right, what you can do is you can put all these building blocks together and create a product, create a solution, help fill a gap within your customer's environment. So think about it as building blocks.
Okay, that makes sense. So as you said, you have over 200 of these
Correct.
building blocks, and this is something that organizations can pick from according to the needs that they've got. Okay.
Correct.
One of the areas that we see mentioned a lot as far as digital transformation is concerned are the challenges that organizations have around skills. So what impact does the cloud have on workplace skill requirements?
Yes, and you know what? This is one of my priorities as well. So there's a lot of different workforce development programs that I lead as well for the public sector. Excuse me. We are currently in the middle of a huge shift. And at AWS, Amazon Web Services, we believe that in the fullness of time, most, if not all, organizations will adopt the cloud. So if you think about it, if you look 10 years ago, if you went to, for example, Indeed or one of the other job placement services, the jobs would look very different than how they look today. And the reality is most of those jobs, or a good percentage of those jobs nowadays, are cloud-based jobs. And the challenge that we're having is that there just isn't enough talent out there. There's a huge gap. People don't have the cloud skills that are required to fill these jobs. So I can speak from experience. We hear from our customers, from our partners, and us also internally, we have a lot of challenges hiring because it's hard to find people with cloud skills. So there's a huge talent gap out there.
Okay, and so cloud usage reduces the need for organizations to obtain skills that are perhaps hard to get at the moment.
Yeah, and I would say that a lot of the different, for example, we've put a lot of programs in place like the AWS Restart program, which helps train underserved, underrepresented, underemployed individuals to get into cloud careers. So, as an organization, we've realized this and we're really trying to address this gap.
Okay. Are there security issues with the cloud? Because now clearly data is passing outside the organization to Amazon and back again. So are there security issues, and what guidance would you provide to organizations about those?
Yes, absolutely. So, so in response to that, if you think about it, the cloud is actually, it helps eliminate a lot of these security issues, and it's more secure, I would say. I mean, imagine the amount of investment that an organization like Amazon Web Services or Amazon invest in ensuring that it's secure, their business is secure, their environments are secure, and customers get to leverage that when they use Amazon Web Services. So I'll give you a little analogy, right? And I like this one. So we have something called the shared responsibility model. And to help describe it in a non-technical way, when you're, think about a house builder, right? A house builder builds a house, right? They build the floors, they build the walls, they put in the electrical, they make sure that it's a livable place, it's solid, it's not going to collapse on you, and it's well protected, right? And what they do is they give you the keys, right, to the front door. Now it's up to you to lock that front door, right? Because if you don't lock that front door, something negative could happen. But it's up to you to lock that front door so that you are safe and sound. So I like to use that analogy because it kind of shows that there is a certain level of responsibility on the customer. But at the same time, Amazon also ensures, Amazon Web Services ensures that, ensures and manages and controls the components from the host operating system and the virtualization layer down to the physical security of the facilities. And AWS customers are responsible for building secure applications.
So what you seem to be saying is that Amazon build a good house that is very secure, but you have to lock the door. That makes sense.
Yeah, I like that analogy. Yeah.
Okay, so the cost impact. So what you've said so far may be attractive to lots of people, but they're going to be thinking, but what does all this cost? So can you explain the cost impact, which presumably has both positive and negative aspects to it?
Yeah, so from a positive perspective, I mean, think about that's one of the benefits of the cloud is you only pay for what you use. So, just to reiterate that example, like let's say I myself have an idea, right? I want to create a specific product for, for a set of individuals that, for a set of individuals that, for my set of customers. I can only pay for what I use. So I can go to Amazon Web Services, I can use those building blocks, I can put together a product and only pay for what I use. And for example, if it's not a successful project, or I feel that it's not what the customers were looking for, what I can do is I can just decommission it, and I only had to pay for what I used, right? Where in the old world, what would happen is that you have all that technology, that software that you bought, et cetera, sitting on your desk, and it's already been paid for, and it's on your books. So I would say that so that's the positiveness, is that you only pay for what you use and it's on demand. From a negative perspective, when I think about the negative aspects of this, the only thing that comes to mind is the fact that from a workforce development perspective, there just aren't enough people trained on this technology. So, although as an organization, it's the right direction to move in, that it's going to save you costs, it's going to help you grow, expand, run your business more efficiently. The next question is going to be, do we have the people that understand this technology? And that's the biggest gap, right? Is that there just aren't enough people to fill those jobs that exist out there.
Yeah, so the cloud gives you access to technologies more easily that you didn't have before, but you need to be able to use those.
Exactly. And, organizations like Amazon Web Services and many of our partners understand that. And, it's a priority for us to ensure that, as many people as possible are being trained. We're making the connections between students that are coming out of these programs and employers that are looking for cloud skills, and so on and so forth.
What happens to the data that goes to the cloud? Who owns it? What control do they have of it? And does using the cloud involve any loss of control of data?
No, absolutely not. So the customer's data is the customer's data. And, when it's in the cloud, it's up to them to move it somewhere else. But that's part of the whole shared responsibility model, right? And for example, the analogy I gave on the house there is that the customer owns the data. It is the customer's data, and they can encrypt it to ensure that it's not accessible by anybody. But it's the customer that has entire control of their data. Okay,
so if customers are putting data in the Amazon cloud, Amazon isn't taking that data and using it to influence or support their retail operations.
Absolutely not. And security is our #1 policy. You would see it ultimately built into every single product and service that we release. And our customers' data is our customers' data, and they have full access and control on how it's being used.
Okay, my final question,
Yes.
It's a broad one. Is there anything else you'd want to say to organizations about the cloud as part of their technology strategy? Is there anything we've not covered that you think it's important for people to know?
Well, one of the things that I like to repeat is that, we genuinely believe that in the fullness of time, most, if not all, organizations will adopt cloud technology. And it's something that if you haven't considered as an organization, you should be considering it. And, and ensuring that your staff is trained up on how to use it is also a very important factor. The ability for the cloud to help you innovate. And nowadays it's super important because things change, customer requirements change, at the click of a second, right? So it's very important that you are able to move along with your customer base. And, the only way to really do that is to have access to building blocks and technology that is readily available at your fingertips. So I'll just end with that, Peter.
Okay, well, thank you, Fahd, for talking to me today. I appreciate it. It'll introduce the cloud and Amazon services to many people who are going to be working in areas that might take advantage of those in the future. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. Pleasure is mine. Thank you very much for having me.